Hello and welcome everyone to follow along with Manny. Today we've got our Easter special and I'm going to be showing you how to make a walnut and coffee cake. It's a really wholesome cake and you've got the option of adding the coffee or leaving the coffee out. So anyone who doesn't want the coffee, you can basically, I'll put that ingredient at the end and it's optional whether you actually put it into your cake or not, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with getting our butter. So we're going to measure 250 grams of butter into our mixing bowl. Now, with the butter, you can just choose any butter that you want. So we're going to basically put in 250 grams of butter. Now, like I've said before, it doesn't have to be exact. It just needs to be round about that mark. So if you're short by maybe 10 grams, then don't worry about it. So 250 grams of butter we've put in there into a bowl, and then we're going to put in 200 grams of caster sugar. So I've got two containers here to add in, and gonna add 200 grams. So we just basically pour that in. And I hope everyone's been having a good Easter. We've had a really great weather this weekend with some sun. I hope everyone else got some as well. And yeah, what did I do? I went out, spent some time out in the backyard, in the back garden. I was going to say backyard. So put in 200 grams of sugar there. Just need to wait for the weather to get a little bit hotter, and I think it's going to be barbecue weather, and I'm sure everyone can't wait for that, especially with lockdown here in England. We still got lockdown that's not fully been lifted, but everyone is quite excited to be out and about. Gonna imagine that there's going to be a lot of people that's going to be making their way to the beaches and parks and whatnot. I made my way to the park and then I decided I'm going to chill in the back garden. So now that we've basically added our butter and sugar, we're going to mix the two together. So it's going to get a bit noisy right now. And what we're going to do is going to mix it until both the butter and sugar is basically white. Now for anyone who doesn't have a hand mixer like me, and has, you know, the full standing mixer, what you can do whilst you leave it to mix the butter and sugar is you can start putting together the rest of the ingredients, and that will, I'm going to do that in a moment. But right now, the butter and the sugar has been mixed together, and it will go a lot more pale than this. It will be as white as possible, and that's what you want, because though it will take longer to actually get to that color, it's all worth it, because it just means that your cake will come out nice and fluffy. So we'll leave that there, and then what we're going to do now is we're going to basically put together the rest of our ingredients. So we're going to now get 190 grams of flour into our bowl. And I'm using plain flour, but you can use self-raising if you want. And if you use self-raising, then what you're going to do is you're going to not use the baking powder or as much of it. So going to measure 190 grams of flour. Now, anyone who's been paying close attention will notice that I forgot to basically put the sieve on top of this, but never mind. The sieve will only mean that your flour is going to be fine, but if you mix it in well, then you don't need to worry about that. But all the more, make sure you do sift the flour, unlike myself. So we've got in our bowl our flour, 190 grams of flour, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add our eggs into the bowl. Actually, I could just crack it in here. No, let me put it in a separate bowl here. So as you crack your eggs into the bowl, just make sure you don't get any shells, eggshells in there. And if you do, not to worry, because one little trick is to use the shell of the egg and scoop it out. Because anyone who's ever tried to take an eggshell out of cracked eggs, a bowl of cracked eggs, you'll realize it's very difficult. And one thing about the shells is there's a bit of science behind it, but yeah, the shells will be the remover, will help you remove the shell out of the mix. So you can either whisk your eggs in the bowl before you add it into the bowl, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the hand mixer. Okay. So then we're going to add our baking powder. So you only need maybe half a teaspoon of baking powder. Add that into the flour. Mix that all together there. And then we're gonna add our vanilla essence. So how I like to do it is I basically you can add it how in any stage you want, but I'm going to add it to the eggs. So you just want a cap full in there, or if you like a lot of vanilla, then you can add it, a drop more. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to mix the ingredients together. So in the bowl, we've got our flour and baking powder. And then in our separate bowl, we've whisked the eggs. And what I'm going to do is we've got our bowl with the butter and sugar that's been mixed together. And we're going to put all of those ingredients together gradually. So with the mixer on, then we're going to I'm going to add the eggs in first and gradually mix it together, and then I'm going to add the flour afterwards. So it's going to get a bit noisy, but just persevere. And whilst you're doing this, what you can do as well is you can get your oven ready and set that to 160 degrees. And whilst you're mixing, then your oven will be getting hot, ready for the cake to be put in. So with the spatula, I'm just making sure that all the bits that's on the side is going into the middle there. So we're not leaving anything out. We're making sure that we mix all of the ingredients together, and it comes together nicely. So now now that we've got the eggs and the sugar and butter all mixed together there with the vanilla essence, then we're going to gradually add our flour bit by bit. Now, I mean, at this point, I could start, sieve it in like this gradually, and do it stage by stage. one thing about baking as well is, like, if you're doing it like this, like how I'm doing it, there's different stages in baking, and sometimes it calls for patience as well. So don't worry if it feels like it's taking ages, because once it's the results that counts, really. I can see it's coming along really nicely now. The mixture is gradually thickening as the ingredients are being mixed together. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm not missing anything. So, or anything that's on the rims of the bowl, just making sure it's all mixed in there. Just the last bits now. Lovely jubbly. Right. Okay, so now you can see the mixture has all come together nicely there. And once that's done, we're gonna now weigh in our bowl our next ingredient, one of our most important ingredients. Otherwise, it doesn't make it a walnut cake, So we're gonna get walnut halves, and we're gonna measure. I think it's like 140, about 140 grams of walnuts. You can add more or you can add less, depending. Well, I wouldn't add too much more, but 140 for this mix is enough. If you want a lot less, then you can basically put a lot less into your mix here. So, with the walnut halves weighed up, what you're going to need to do is you're going to make sure that your walnuts are at a size which will basically be not edible. I was going to use the word edible, but obviously they're going to be edible. But you just don't want them too big, and you don't want them too big where when you put them in the mix and you bake it, if it's too big, if it's too large, then it's going to basically sink to the bottom. So you're going to end up having a cake, and then with the walnuts at the bottom of the base. So like we have here, we've got walnut halves, but these aren't yet small. These aren't small enough. What you're going to want is basically for them to be pea-sized walnuts. So in order to get them that way, don't put it into a mixer, a food mixer, or like a blitzer or something like that. What you're going to do is you're going to basically take the walnut halves, put it into a bag similar to this. You're going to put it into a bag, and you're going to get your rolling pin or something hard, a blunt instrument, not one that you've any mothers with kids. Yeah, I'm not, I'm not encouraging any abuse here or anything like that. But what you're going to do is you're going to get your rolling pin, and I know, coming from an African background, been told enough times when you're misbehaving, you're going to get it. But what we're going to do is we're going to really give it to our walnut halves, and mash them up so then they're pea-sized walnuts. When you're really giving it to the walnuts, don't worry about them being too small or bashing them where they're too small, because with the rolling pin going at it, you're not going to get it to a size which is too small. Whereas compared to if you basically put these in a food mixer, the food mixer is gonna blend them to a lot smaller than what you actually need. So before we add these into our mix, we're gonna also add in some milk. So we're gonna basically get 80 grams of milk, or 80 mils of milk, and we're gonna add that to our ingredient. So I'm just going to add that in here, and then I'm going to give it an extra mix before adding in the walnuts. Okay. I don't know if anyone else celebrates Easter, but what I did was, for Lent, I gave up sugar. That sugars in like sweet drinks, sort of like processed foods and whatnot. Well, not all processed foods, but you know what I mean. Candy, chocolates, sweets, anything. Because I've got a sweet tooth, and so explains the reason why I bake. So as you can imagine, giving up sugar and then having to bake as well, it's a challenge at times. I've been really good, and so I managed to make it. I didn't fail. I didn't give up. So if anyone has noticed, I've got a lot of fruit in the background here, and that's what I've substituted for the sugar. So whenever I've had a craving for like chocolates or sweets and cakes and treats and stuff like that, I just go to the fruit bowl and then grab myself an orange or a banana, and just whatever fruit that took my fancy. If I needed something sweeter, then I get something like dates or prunes or whatever, just so long I could stay away from it. So now that we've basically added in our walnuts, I'm just basically giving it a good mix. And what you're going to do next is you're going to get yourself your baking tins. So I've got 2 shallow baking tins here, which I've already greased with pre-greased in there, so our mix our ingredients don't stick when we put it in the oven. So like I've said before, one of the things I've had is basically I'm a bit particular when it comes to pouring the ingredients into the tin. So I weigh it up and then I divide it equally into each of the tins. So I'm going to basically do that now. And because we've already preheated the oven, that's going to be a nice, our nice temperature. So I'm just pouring it in now. Yeah. And that's one tin. Now, second tin. That's our second tin there. Just going to add a little bit more. I was speaking to a friend of mine, and they were picking up on someone's OCD, and I said, "Oh, I think everyone's got an OCD of some sort," and I guess I can identify this as being one of my OCDs. You know, making sure that I've got the exact measurement or almost exact in each of the tins, so it's equal amount, it's uniform. So now that poured our mixture into our tins, and for me equally, I'm gonna make sure I basically put these into our oven at gas mark 160 degrees. So what you can do before is, I mean, it's up to you. You can give it a quick tap just to get rid of it. Sorry, what you can do is you can give it a quick tap just to get rid of any bubbles, and then we're going to basically put it into our oven now. And then once you've got it in your oven, you're going to set the timer, or you're going to set whatever timer you've got to 35 minutes for that to bake. Oh, shoot. Like I mentioned, it's optional to include the coffee. If you forget, you can just do like me and just have it as a nice espresso. But I did actually wanted to include it into the mix there. But as I forgot, it's just going to be a walnut cake. But that's fine because, like I said, it's optional. And what we're going to do, what you've got can do next is you can basically, whilst that's in the oven, you can then get to putting together your frosting. And with the frosting, you're going to basically need 150 grams of soft butter. Any butter will do. And you're going to put that into your bowl. And then you're going to add 300 grams of icing sugar. And then you're basically going to give that a really good mix until it's soft and the two put together. Then it's up to yourself, but you can also add a teaspoon of vanilla extract as well, or vanilla essence into that, just to give it a nice flavor. And then you're going to basically mix the whole bowl together, and then that will be your frosting ready for when you take the cake out of the oven and it's baked. Now, anyone who's probably as old as I am might remember Blue Peter, or if you was even young enough to. And what I've done is I've made one earlier, and that one I actually added the coffee into it. So and just to keep it moist and fresh in the fridge, I wrapped it in cling film, and just going to show you here. So here you have it. Oh, I can actually show you with the other camera actually. So here we have our finished walnut cake. As you can see, I've taken a slice out of there, and hopefully, if you can see in the middle, you should get a consistency. Let me just cut that up for you. You should get a nice consistency where with the frosting that you've prepared, you can layer the frosting. I'm just going to use this chopping board here. So, oh, almost lost it there. So, you should basically get a cake layered like this, where you've got the walnuts. You can clearly see the walnuts in amongst the mix, and then you've got your layer of frosting, and then you've got your other cake there. And then once that is done, that's basically your cake, your walnut and coffee cake. So you can change up the recipe if you want, and rather than vanilla essence, what I have done in the past is I've used orange essence and given that little bit of a tangy surprise when it came to, you know, presenting it and offering it to guests and other people as well. So you can change up the flavor. You can change up the flavor. I've never experimented with too many flavors. However, with the vanilla essence, you can always change it up. I don't know what it'll taste like with strawberry or mint. I've never actually tried mint, but I can imagine that might taste better with chocolates. But hey, there's people out there with unique tastes, and if you actually do that and add a different flavor in there, please let me know, and let me know how it tasted. And basically, once the cake is done, then I'm going to basically prepare the frosting and put it all together, and we'll have another cake like this. So hopefully everyone was able to follow along. If you've got any questions, just put them in the comments. And if you've got any other recommendations onto what to make next, then please just put your comments in there, and we will actually, we do look at them, and we'll basically prepare it for our next showing, live showing. All right. So hopefully everyone enjoys the rest of their Easter weekend. Today's the bank holiday Monday, and unfortunately I'm going to be back to work tomorrow. So everyone enjoy the weekend, and enjoy the good weather as long as it lasts. So have a good night, have a good evening, morning, night, whatever. Bye bye.